Well, good morning. Welcome back to the broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Friday, February 11th, 2022. At our top story today, student loan repayments are scheduled to restart on May 1st, 2022. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Betsy Matt. She is the founder and president of the Institute of Student Loan Advisors. Betsy, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Yeah, good to see you too.
It's great to talk to you. Great to talk student loans. And let's kick things off and just remind the audience that student loan repayments are set to restart. What do you think about all that?
Well, again, because they were supposed to restart at the end of January, and then at the very last minute, 10th inning, so to speak, they decided to extend to May 1st. And there's some question about whether they'll extend them again. I am leaning towards that they won't. But this has become a sort of a political thing. So depending, what they are thinking for midterms and so on, there is a small chance that they may extend again. But let's assume that they're not going to. I think for a lot of borrowers, it's going to be a rough start. I mean, it's been almost 2 years since payments have been on hold. And we all know there's such a thing as lifestyle creep. So people that have gotten out of the habit of making that payment every month might find it a little more difficult, surprisingly difficult, to resume that payment amount. So I think at this point, it's a really good idea for people to take a close look at their budget and re-familiarize themselves as to what their student loan payment might be. And then if they think they're going to need some help or that payment might be a struggle, now's the time to start looking for some solutions.
Betsy, you mentioned, and thanks for that, Betsy, you mentioned that there is some talk and some rumblings and of a potential delay. You really shouldn't bet on that. If you are, right now it is etched in, I don't know what you call it. It's etched in pencil that things will restart, but you really need to start thinking about it now, not wait to the last minute, because, look, eventually it's going to restart.
Right. I mean, at this point, if I was a betting woman, I would say there's a 90% chance that they will actually resume May 1st, and maybe a 10% chance that they'll extend it again. So, absolutely prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Betsy, what if I'm having trouble? Not me personally, but if I represent one of our audience members and I'm having trouble, I know I'm not going to get there. I know I'm going to have difficulty. Maybe I lost my job. Maybe I had my hours reduced. Maybe something else came up, an expense. I had to fix a hot water heater. I don't know. There could be dozens and dozens of things. What do you recommend in terms of getting in touch with the lender? Excuse me. I was saying get in touch with the borrower. Get in touch with the lender to try to work a deal out to make sure that you don't pay additional interest or you get defaulted.
Well, a lot of it depends on whether you have private or federal student loans. If you have private loans, unfortunately, there are not a lot of options for relief in most cases. It varies by lender, or sometimes even within a lender, it varies by loan product. So the best thing you can do if you have private student loans is to reach out to the loan holder and explain your situation and ask what your options are. There may be the possibility of some limited forbearance. Of course, interest would still accrue. And in fact, with private loans, sometimes they make you pay a $50 fee for that forbearance. Now, of course, that's better than having it show up as a delinquency on your credit report or defaulting and being at risk for court judgment. Federal student loans are a completely different animal. Thankfully, with federal student loans, there's actually quite a few options available for relief if you're in financial struggle. For example, if you're not working, there's what's called an unemployment deferment that can put your loans on hold for up to 6 months at a time. Depending on the type of loans you have, the interest might be put on hold under that deferment as well. There are multiple lower payment options, some that will just extend the term So give you longer to pay in exchange for a lower monthly payment. Of course, in the long run, you pay more interest, but it's still preferable to defaulting. And then, of course, there's various plans that are based on your income. We call them the income-driven plans. That's usually the first thing we suggest that people look into. There is some interest subsidy baked in to those income-driven plans, but even better, if your financial situation is going to be long-term, there's actually a forgiveness component built into those income-driven plans. So if you're on them for, say, 20 or 25 years, the balance will end up getting forgiven.
Yeah. Betsy, what's the hope for forgiveness? I think last time you were on, I think just before the holidays started, I think we talked about public sector loan forgiveness. PSLAF, I think was the
Public
acronym.
Service Loan Forgiveness, PSLF. Right?
PSLF. But any shot at that for people who, I think there's been a lot of talk since President Biden took the oath of office and during the campaign. Any movement there that you might be able to expect some level of forgiveness up to a certain threshold?
Well, I think we're confusing two different issues here. There's the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which exists. It's a real thing. Thousands of people have had their loans forgiven under it. Excuse me. And what we talked about on our last segment was the Biden administration announced some temporary waivers back in October that actually make the program even easier to achieve as long as you raise your hand and fit certain qualifications by October of 2022. So that's for people who work for a government employer, whether that be federal, state, local, even tribal. It could also be for people who work for 501c3 nonprofit organizations. And then there are some other non-501c3 nonprofits whose focus are on very specific activities that also may be considered eligible employment. If one of your audience members thinks that they might qualify for this, they should really soon check out our Public Service Loan Forgiveness page at freestudentloanadvice.org or the Department of Education's Public Service Loan Forgiveness page at studentaid.gov and make sure they do what they need to do to take advantage of this before the deadline under these temporary waivers. Now, to be clear, PSLF is not temporary. PSLF, unless and until, which is unlikely, Congress gets rid of it, PSLF will always exist. It's just these loosening of the rules that's temporary through October of this year.
Yeah.
And then the other topic is whether President Biden is going to do broad student loan forgiveness of any kind for all student loan borrowers. That continues to be sort of a political round, for want of an actual word. Who knows what's going to happen come midterms. I still feel pretty strongly that it's very unlikely for the Biden administration to do broad student loan forgiveness, and we haven't really seen any activity. I mean, what Biden said right along is, if I encourage it, I support it. If Congress brings me a bill, I'll sign it. But other than sort of yelling at President Biden about it, we haven't seen a lot of activity in Congress in the form of legislation that could lead to broad student loan forgiveness. So my hopes remain very, very low at this point that there will be any type of forgiveness in that way. Now, with that said, the Biden administration is doing amazing things to help the most vulnerable student loan borrower populations. And we can thank COVID in a way because they're taking advantage of a provision in the HEROES Act that allows the president to go beyond federal statute during national emergency. So they're taking advantage of COVID, and they've made things easier for people applying for disability discharge. They're working to make, as we see, they're making things easier for public service workers to get forgiveness under that program. They're working to make things easier for borrowers that have been defrauded by their institutions. And in fact, just last week, they announced that they were not going to appeal and push back on a decision where a borrower got their loans discharged in bankruptcy.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you shouldn't hold out hope that May will be delayed again. You need to think about restarting your loans. And I guess we'll have to see how it goes. A lot can change between now and May, as we all
There's
know.
a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. There is a lot going on. Betsy, I want to take a quick break. When we come back, don't let student loans and student loan debt delay home ownership. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Then call now for this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers. This free book reveals little-known secrets about annuity strategies that will help you make the right choices before buying an annuity. Call right now for your free book, and as a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-504-8194.
Welcome back. We're talking this morning to Betsy Matt. She's the president and founder of the Institute of Student Loan Advisors. Betsy, thanks for sticking with us this morning.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so those loans are restarting, and that's, I think, probably scary to many. There are a lot of people out there that do have student loans. I think last number that I saw, $1.6 trillion, I think, is student loan debt, if I'm not mistaken. Did that number creep up?
1.7, yep.
1.7,
Yep.
so it's creeped up. But, one of the things about America is everyone's got this dream of owning a home. And that student loan debt can really be a weight around your neck in terms of holding you back, or it could hold you back from buying a home. I want to get your thoughts about that. How do you avoid that? I mean, obviously pay off the loan. That's one of the easiest ways to buy a home. But are there ways to kind of parry both but get into the home of your dreams?
Yeah, so the rules around student debt and home ownership have slowly evolved over the last 10 years or so. I mentioned in our prior segment that there's these income-driven repayment plans that base your payment on your income and can therefore significantly lower your payment than what it would be under a standard repayment plan. In the past, the problem with that has been that when you go to apply for a mortgage and they do your debt-to-income ratio, which is a huge component to whether you qualify for a mortgage at all or how much of a mortgage you'd qualify for, they were ignoring what your actual monthly payment was and looking instead at what your payment would have been under a standard 10-year plan. And that excluded a lot of people from being approved for that mortgage. Well, as I said, over the last 10 years, that is slowly evolving. So, for example, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will actually look at your actual student loan payment. So if you're on an income-driven plan and your payment's $20 a month under that income-driven plan, then that's what they're going to use in the debt-to-income calculation. Now, unfortunately, some of the other mortgage backers still haven't caught up with that. And they're basically using 1% of, if you're on a lower payment option, they're not going to use that in the calculation. They're going to use 1% of your balance. So if your student loan debt is high compared to your income, you want to look for a mortgage product that is backed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac to make sure that they're using your actual student loan payment rather than trying to estimate a higher one.
And Betsy, this is not an uncommon scenario where someone has student loan debt. I think almost 40% of new home buyers, first-time home buyers, have on average $30,000 of student loan debt. That's significant. I mean, that's almost half of first-time buyers. This is not an aberration, right? I mean, this is a big deal.
It is a big deal. And you know, if you owe 30 grand and your payment's probably $350, $400 a month, that may or may not make or break your opportunity, to qualify for a mortgage. What it is going to slow you down on is saving for that down payment.
Yeah, and you need, depending your mortgage rate and your the amount that you put down will impact the total mortgage that you have. I mean, these are things you really have to think about. I mean, are these issues that you deal with? I mean, you're not a real estate agent. You don't do anything with real estate, but I would assume that people come to you and your team and say, "Hey, look, I have other financial goals. I've got a kid that's got to go to college. I've got, I want to buy a home. I need to buy a car.
I need to save for retirement.
I need to save for retirement.
Retired.
There's this balancing act that has to happen. Are people by and large successful in balancing this all out?
Well, there's a white paper out there from a few years ago now. It was co-written by, I believe, Realtors.com and an organization called American Student Assistance called Life Delayed. And they have a lot of data about how student loan debt has delayed or postponed or prevented home ownership over the years. So that's something to check out. And from my perspective, I do hear from, lately with these public service loan forgiveness waivers, when I'm hearing from borrowers that have successfully had their loans forgiven under public service loan forgiveness because of these temporary waivers, there's quite a few of them that have said, "Oh my God, this weight is off my back. Now I can go buy a house." That's not an infrequent sentiment that I'm hearing from these people.
Yeah. Betsy, last question before I let you go, and it's completely out of left field, but hey, I'm going to ask it anyway. Rising interest rates, we've seen the impact on mortgage rates, although there's not a direct correlation. Has there been an impact, especially with the Fed has announced that they're going to raise interest rates in 2022? We don't know the number of times they're going to do that or by what measure, but have you seen interest rates for student loans increase?
The private loan refinance products are starting to creep up a tiny bit. And I'm starting to see more borrowers actively looking, who have private student loans, actively looking to try to refinance before, especially if they have a variable rate private loan now, they're trying to refinance to lock in a lower rate before those rates go up. Federal student loans are based, the interest rates are written into law by Congress, and borrowers sort of don't have a choice of refinancing or getting a lower rate on their federal loans without taking them out of the federal program. So that's more of a sort of watch and wait and see. But I am seeing a lot more activity on the private side.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to wait and see on a lot of things. But people can always check out what Betsy has to say on her website, freestudentloanadvice.org. Betsy Matt, always a pleasure chatting with you. I always feel educated, for lack of a better term, when we chat. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
See you soon.
That wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, and all in one place. Check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives and see our latest content? Well, check out our website, www.broadcastretirementnetwork.com, and our streaming partners, Amazon, Roku, Samsung, and over 100 more. We're back again tomorrow, this time for BRN Weekly. We'll take a look at some of our best segments for the week. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Waiting here for you to take and drink of. But if you're tired of the same old
Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.